Okay, so we are recording. So welcome everybody. This is week 3, focusing on BIM execution planning. So go on, turn on your cameras if you're cool to have that, so I can see everybody's awake. Don't want any sleeping. A couple things, just some housekeeping, I guess. Zoom recordings. I discovered this after the last one recorded, so I want to make sure you're all aware. Under cloud recordings, you'll see the previous classes, and apparently they only stay for 30 days. So I've downloaded them, and I've uploaded them to my own, my YouTube channel. There's a playlist for Algonquin. So once the videos disappear from here, I can re-add the links, but they won't have all of the transcripts in the videos do here. So this is actually up and have a look at these. It actually transcribes every word that we all say, and it's pretty cool technology, but after 30 days, it'll disappear. So if you haven't, I'll just show you what I do. So I know some of you have connected to my YouTube channel, so rock on if you have. But what I will have, once it appears here, I have a playlist specific for Algonquin College, and it basically has all of everyone in the last 2 years, all the sittings of this course. So, and I come down to 2019. I don't know why there's a dishwasher thing there, but there is 2019. Supposed to have the other one as well. Supposed to have 2 of them here. So I'll make sure they're all on here, and then I'll put up for you, and I'll make sure this dishwasher video is not in the playlist, which is weird. But yeah, I'll make sure that they're there and available in case we need them. Okay, so that's that. The quiz, I just have a list of items here. The quiz, everybody reminder that the quiz is open still. I think I have about 10 completions, so only a third of you have done it. So as with all things, don't wait until the last second to do it, please. But if you do, well, I'll keep putting a reminder up there. But I'll just pull up the quiz here just to remind you. Go to activities, quizzes, and the timing of the quiz. I don't want to tell you the date, so that's why I want to quickly open it. And it's incredible with Zoom. When Zoom is on, everything just goes just a little slower, which is why I try to open everything prior to the classes. There we go. So the first quiz will close September 27th, okay? So you still have time if you haven't done it already. Week today, it'll close. Please do it. Don't procrastinate till next week. Discussion boards. A lot more entries are in here, which is great. I see how they all kind of taper as we get close. So if you've fallen behind, get something into these, because as I like to say, these are easy marks, right? Give an idea, get something in there. We're at the BIM execution plan now. And notice that all of these, from the week 1, it's kind of this grace period of everybody's new to the term, etc. They're all going to close on Monday. Monday's the 23rd. Just want to check that again. They're all going to close on Monday, and week 4 will open up. Next week we talk about software, and then it'll get to a normal schedule. They close the day after the class thereafter, so everyone will close on Saturday. So the idea, as I said with these, this is the hybrid portion, give you a little something, generate a bit of thought, write down your thought, might be an element, something to upload, whatever. When I do the assessment, it's either yes or no, you did it or you didn't. And the assessment, it'll all be when it closes. I'll tell you exactly what happened in previous years. The minute it closed, oh my God, I didn't have enough time. Oh my God, I didn't know I had to do something. Oh my God, you show it as a 0. So I iterate this over and over. On Monday, in 3 days, I gotta say this right. In 3 days, everything, the first 5 are going to disappear. And I've read them all. I have a couple examples I'm actually gonna bring up today. I've read them all. They will close. And I'm not going to reopen them. They're only worth like 1.2% or whatever it is, but I keep saying they're easy. after today's class, the next one opens. The theory, the way it's supposed to be is we hang up today, any lingering ones get done, and then you start thinking about next week. So this catch up, I want to make sure that's done. And then as you can see, it's one each week as it will start to pop open. And then when we get into the assignments near the end, these will taper off. Okay, so that was the discussion, the quiz. A question about next week's class. And I want this to be unanimous, so I will sacrifice if you all say no, or if you don't all say yes. I'm in China next week. I'm going there for a BIM conference, really good stuff. So there's only 11 of you on right now, or 16 of you actually. Okay, cool. Getting more cameras open. Next week, is there any objection to having this class occur just a little earlier? Because what I'll do is, the way I have it planned right now, next Friday at 1 a.m. China time, I will be on here. I will have baggy eyes, I will be tired, and we'll do this class. Is there any way we could move it to 11 o'clock or something a little earlier? Like, do you guys have anything in the morning, other classes, work commitments, etc.? So like if there's any issues, just yell it out and I'll keep it as is. Or put it in the chat window if anybody has any concerns with that. Okay. I'll ask again at the end. And if nobody has a concern, it'll be awesome, because then it'll be 11 p.m. instead of 1 a.m. I think I'll still have bags under my eyes, but it'll be better. So that'll be good. Okay, so I will ask again, confirm it, and then I'll make an announcement. We'll move this to start at 11 a.m. next week, and then back to normal every week thereafter. Awesome. You're all awesome. Okay, we'll do a look back, go through the content, and then hopefully get you guys out earlier than normal. Just a reminder that at the end of this term, we're going to have presentations. So I'm hoping you all know who each other are. You should be able to see what groups I've assigned you to. So if you notice that if you're poking around in your Brightspace under activities groups, you all should be assigned to a group. So it was funny because I do the same thing with George Brown, and someone came to me. If you can mute, if there's, oh, I see you. Hold on, I got you. There we go. If you have, one of them asked, I'm in a group, what's it for? So I said, it's a little assignment. Here I want to make sure, because we're a smaller team, make sure you all know who each other are. Again, it won't happen for 10 weeks, but I just wanted to plant that seed that there's a group assignment that you should see already, and that's for week 12, 13, and 14. So looking back, we talked about my philosophical concepts of BIM, and we talked about client requirements. And I was going through just an example for those who haven't, a lot of you did the EIR, just picking out one that as I was going through, one of the recent ones that were put in, I just said, let me just show an example here. This is an EIR, right? So this was what I brought up last week. I said to you, fictitiously fill something out. Objectives, BIM uses, what we might use the model for, what the model might help a designer, a contractor, an architect. A lot of examples was great. Like, just give me ideas of what you might put. And I love this, because when we talk about software next week, collaboration the week after, and deliverables the week after that, like technical deliverables, just look at all of this. And, we started with BIM myths the first week. That horrible myth that BIM is Revit. And this is great, because you could have a little bit of everything, and it works. It might be more difficult. The recipe, BIM is a cookbook. The recipe might be a little challenging, but these are the things. And I bring this up because I actually had a project with, okay, I'm not going to touch it, with all of these. Actually, this makeup was pretty much exactly, including the SolidWorks. And SolidWorks is unique because it's not Bentley, it's not Autodesk, it's not anything, it's its own thing, but it's phenomenal, and it's used very heavily with heavy industrial process engineering. Schematics using Word, Office is interesting, but when we introduce the like AutoCAD PNID or the schematics of the heavy plant applications that we'll talk about next week, it just brings in a whole different scope of data, and making all this stuff talk. That's what's unique. That's what's exciting. And you know, as I say, if we can't answer these questions, that's the challenge. And we just have a major project that we're working on now, and we're at the forefront. We've just been named the designer, and I don't have this. I don't have this answer right now. And it's a struggle because we don't know what the client wants. We don't know what the client expects. And the client doesn't know who to ask within themselves. So we're saying, where's the Brent counterpart? Where's the counterpart for my BIM coordinator? So is there a director? Is there a coordinator? Is there someone who we can build a conversation with to get these answers? To get this answer? Is there any software? Is there any outcome? Is there an expectation that you expect before we sit down and say, okay, we're going to do Revit and Open Roads, and away we go. And then in 24 months, someone on the client says, well, hold on, I want Civil 3D. Well, you have Open Roads now. It's a 2-year-old project. We can't change the model. Or if we have Revit today and somebody says, well, I wanted Vectorworks. I wanted ArchiCAD. Those are the questions. And, you know, if you're working in North America, most likely the building would be Revit. But if it's a European project, ArchiCAD is very prevalent, and you have to know that. And you'd be shocked with some pockets in North America as well. So all of these questions are about how to jumpstart the development of a BIM execution plan and know what you're BIMing and why you're BIMing it. If you don't have those answers, along with your scope, schedule, budget. Remember the project delivery triangle. What you're BIMing, why you're BIMing it, scope, schedule, budget. If that's, you guys hang up the phone in 10 weeks and say, man, every week he said what you're BIMing, why you're BIMing it, and scope, schedule, budget. That's the best takeaway to take to any firm, any future you have. Even if it's not in our industry, scope, schedule, budget. Just remember that. That's task management. But this is the premise. To have this, then we say, great, now this BIM execution plan. Who's going to do it? What is it? How is it done, etc. So the discussion topic for coming into this week was exactly that. Have a look at these two templates and tell me what you think. And I just grabbed one example, and I can't remember whose it is, so I'm not going to put you on the spot. If you recognize it, awesome. Why I grabbed it, a lot of them talked about the structure, comparing the two, and the contents, and we're going to talk about that as well. But this one had the capability assessments. And for me, this is huge. And this was a gap that IBI Group identified, in that the UK had all these things, North America does not. So if you notice, when I uploaded that zip file, I included the BIM execution plan. Oops, sorry, this is just my own. I included US, UK, and I included, for your reference, IBI. And what we did in the world of IBI, we broke apart US and UK. I think I included IBI. If I didn't, then this is the first you're seeing it, and disregard the file. Regardless, we included them, and we said we got to pull them together. And in our North America, we said, okay, we're going to have a couple of appendices, including capability assessments, client requirements. And we wanted to make sure that we have these things in place. So we made these North Americanized, removing all of the semantics or the spelling of the UK, but we said fundamentally, this is a critical break in this continent. You can't have a client say, this is what I want, EIR, owner's requirements, this is what I want. And then you jump to planning it. This says ask. When the client says something, do we all know what they're talking about? When the client says BIM and we say BIM and everybody says BIM, do we all get it? Do we all speak with the same maturity, have the same fundamental understandings? If I say to you an LOD 300 model, do you get it? Or are you going to come back to me and say, well, no, I speak LOD LOI of the UK. So is it a level of information, development, detail? Get that common understanding. Supplier is, again, their word for consultant. So IT assessment. Great, we're going to do all of this stuff. Do I have internet bandwidth to connect to Office 365 hosted for non-BIM? Can I connect to cloud hosted BIM 365? Do I have that bandwidth? Do I have connectivity? Can it be done? Do I have hardware and servers and software and infrastructure and all that good stuff? It hopefully is just a simple yes, but what if it's a no? You better know that now prior to starting the project. And as you saw that my computer's trying to download and install something now while I'm presenting, that makes things fun. Resource assessment. So maybe we're capable. Do we have people? Do we have the offices? Resource assessment is probably the hardest thing on IBI side. We all get BIM because I profess it over and over again at every level within IBI group. We have the infrastructure of IT, but sometimes we don't have the people to complete the projects. Do I need to hire? Do we need to move people? Do I want to change my approach to harness expertise in other offices? All of those are huge questions. And as is pointed out, that's not in the Penn State. So a good approach is to kind of blend these two together. And then some discussions of some of the differences. You see the biggest difference is this pre-contract and post-contract. There's actually two plans that are done in the UK, one in the US or North America. You can see from the table of contents, nomenclature, a little different, but again, similar in essence. And we'll talk about that in a bit. The good thing that what I say is they come from different backgrounds, different levels of detail with what they write and how they write it, but a lot of similar things. And when I see a gap like information exchange, okay, I have it over here. Project standards. I don't quite see it here. So in IBI group, we decided to make an appendix for that. We said you can't have a project without standards. So we build it in. Revit technical standards, clash detection standards for our most common things. And the beauty, one of the notices that you all made about the execution plans, this one on the UK seems to go into a lot more detail in certain aspects than US. So you fill in the gap. So why I wanted you to see the two is because regardless, if the template doesn't have enough detail, but the plan requires the detail, you add the detail. You go into more depth, or you do an appendix. So collaboration procedures is, when we get to 2 weeks from now, this is huge. And I can't overstress enough how important it is to know how you're sharing, what you're sharing, and why you're sharing it. And that's the whole gist of the presentation in 2 weeks. How they delineate this on both sides is interesting. Like here, pre-contract doesn't even touch collaboration. Post-contract does. Well, in some instances, that might be too late. So in IBI, we try to bridge those back together, or we say, you know what? I want to have the strategy in my pre-contract. So these aren't cast in stone. And if I'm on a major project, multi-billion dollars, infrastructure all over the place, global work sharing, etc., you better be asking the question about work sharing long before you sign in that contract, because the strategy might affect what you actually sign up for, okay? So just keep that in mind. And let's go to the presentation. So, and then I'm going to show the LOD as well, which I haven't opened yet. So level of development matrix is a fun thing, but let's just start with this and go forth. Okay. So BIM execution plan. I show this because I love the diagram. I made it, so I like it, whatever. You may not like it, it's all good. Point is, I describe it as you have requirements, they're green dots. You end up with a consistent and robust plan, bringing order to what might otherwise have been chaos. In North America, we often jump right to here. And that's crazy, but a project started. Brent, give me the BIM execution plan. And I'll say, no, let me ask some questions first. So we go through this process. Now, when I look at this, you say, well, EIR, that's UK. So we call it owner requirements. Capability assessments, that comes out of the UK. Yes, it does. but we have to ask the questions anyway. So if I can get people to fill out the assessment forms, bonus, we'll do that, right? So that's these guys here. If I can get some, and I'll pull out IT assessment just so you see it if you haven't looked at it eventually. But if I can get them to fill this out, all the power to us. So this is our IBI branded one, asking questions. Again, who are our contacts? Who are our people? This here is IT assessment. So what programs are we using? What information, etc.? Who uses what version? Is everybody on Civil 3D? Great. Is somebody stuck in 2014 and haven't upgraded to 2020? We'll identify that. Looking at drawing management, identifying what we need, what's in use, what people are familiar with. Communication. Can we all use Microsoft Teams? Do we have to use Slack? Do you not like any of those? So these are the types of questions. And somebody will look at this and say, oh, Brent, that's way too complex. I don't even want to see it. And I'll say, oh, okay. So I close it and I come right back to this lovely, simple picture. And I start asking, so what's the owner's requirements? Do they want data? Do they want software? Are you able to deliver? So even if we don't do the document, we ask the question. So we have in our brains a questionnaire. Well, obviously, normally it's documented somewhere. These are the questions you have to ask, and they are in the vein of following this process. If you can't get them answered, when we get over here, it's not going to be a nice working BIM execution plan. It's still going to be chaos. And a lot of our stakeholders, I think they get it, but we still have to have that dialogue to make sure they know what we're doing. Talk about the team. So oftentimes BIM execution planning jumps straight to what software are we using? What are we BIMing and why are we BIMing it? To answer why are we BIMing it, you have to have the right people in place to answer, to champion, and to declare the benefits of the process. That would be your architect, your engineer. So I'm an architect, great. I could also be a BIM champion. I would be there saying, you know what, with these particular softwares, I can do these things. I can analyze, I can quantify, I can clash detect. Come to your own studios or offices. So studio is a UK term, but find out, how do you work? Are we speaking compatibly? Are we incompatible? What is the deal? And it's all about more so dialogue than it must be done this way. I have example BIM execution plans from projects, but it just represents how the process molded for that specific use. The break comes when you go to some firm, you're the BIM lead, it's awesome, and they just say, just tell us how to do BIM every single time. It doesn't work that way. I'm asked that all the time, and when we get to legal, we talk about contractual amendments to accommodate this BIM process. Brent, just give us a template. Like, I can't give you a template for things that are very clearly project specific. Engage me in the dialogue first. Once you do that, in order for that requirements, assessment, development of a plan to happen, we've got to treat it as a plan. Stick to the task, communicate, use information screens, a splash screen on your models. We use bot-based technology, so robotics processes to pop up in front of you and keep you informed of things you need or errors that the bot sees you doing. Identify issues, report problems. Communication is so critical. BIM fails without communication, engagement of the experts, standards. If you're reinventing the wheel on everything, every time, you're bound to fail to an extent. So we want to make sure that we're accommodating that and we understand that there is a difference. There is a reason things work and a reason things don't work. And just like that BIM recipe, the cookbook, I want to use the most efficient recipe. I want to remember the recipe, which means I'm calling upon standards, I'm calling upon content and things that I need. Revit, 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 right? When you're in the world of Revit, don't ignore it. Some people say, well, BIM is Revit. Well, we know that's a myth, but when you're using Revit as your building authoring tool, then the warnings, You're going to do what Revit says. Revit is trying to help you try. Sometimes it doesn't work too well. So stressing this. So this came from the Canadian Handbook of Practice for BIM. Great document. It's in, I think it's in the suggested reading. Not sure if they give you a student copy of it, but whatever. It's really worth reading through. I actually wrote a chapter, so it's good doc. This triangle, people often, twofold. They don't seek out the top half of the triangle. And notice how it's a triangle. So BIM experts are hard to come by. Specialists and champions are even harder. The functional user, this would be your disciplines. These are the people that are developing authoring content at the project level, and then the awareness of staff. So much focus is put on building BIM awareness because when I say staff, that includes your project managers, people holding the money for the projects, deciding who should be on that team. If these people at the bottom are aware of the BIM process and cognizant of the fact that, you know what, they don't know how to use Revit. The clients, I want a deliverable in IFC format. They don't know what that means. Engage up the triangle. We fail when we don't engage up the triangle, or we stop at about the middle. Whatever we know, we know. Whatever we don't, we don't. Well, there's other people that know things. Have that proper dialogue. To make BIM work, you have to have that shepherding and stewardship across all levels of a firm. So that's not just you. That's not just your software experts. So to enable to, if you look at that assessment, we know what the client wants. Now we're going to assess our capabilities. BIM assessment, IT assessment, resource assessment. If you don't have a strategic connectivity with the firm, what are you assessing? So you can probably assess IT, but you say BIM, does your PM know what BIM means? Your CEO, everybody leading the firm, the accounting department, you have to buy a piece of software. All of a sudden, do they look at you as just a spending entity? Or do they know that that piece of software is bringing value to a project and therefore it's insane not to buy it, and they have buy-in? All of that strategic level is important. Then at the project level, so strategic is corporate. And if you're in a smaller firm, it might just be, you know, the person who hired you, the person running that firm. That might be who your strategic is. I'm in a 2,600 person firm. My strategic is probably a group of about 20 people. And we all dialogue. Like, Brent, what are you doing? Why are you spending money? What's the point of what you're doing? I got to tell them. Management at the project level. Okay. This is long before somebody opens up Revit and draws a model, opens up Civil 3D and draws center line of road or center line of pipe. Says, what are you BIMing? Why are you BIMing it? What's my plan? Who's setting up the model? Geospatial coordinates. Will civil and building talk to each other? When I have civil, will building sit where it's supposed to be, or will building be way over there because somebody didn't do shared coordinates properly, because somebody didn't get coordinates from the civil model, because civil didn't integrate with the survey that was delivered and it's just a mess, right? All of that's the beginning. All of these things start that way. Project staff, is it going to be an easy project? I don't know. Talk to the project manager. Are you staffing a bunch of juniors that have never used any software? Or conversely, a bunch of juniors that can tear Revit apart but have never designed a building in their life? And they're going to draw a column that's 15 stories high because they don't know that columns actually going to come in 15 pieces, right? You got to know these things, or at least have a dialogue about them. Internally, you might hear a firm say, we're going to have the A team on this project. If I have the A team, I'm not really concerned. I'm a very easygoing BIM lead because I've got a bunch of good people around me that know software, know process, know design. If I have the D team, the E team, the F team, good Lord, scary, new people to the firm, new people to design, new people to BIM. People who are going to yell at me saying, when I was in AutoCAD, I would draw the line and I was done. It was so perfect. That's a whole different project BIM lead role than the A team. And you will get both. You will get both, unfortunately. One of my students this morning said, Brent, you talk about a lot about selling BIM. Do you still have to sell it? Yes, you still have to sell it because you have differentiation in age, differentiation in experience of design, experience of BIM, and some of the greatest influencers are those that need to still be sold to. And then production. Look at that. After all this effort, now we're into developing the model, developing the drawings. I wish they had that deliverable production as opposed to drawing, because deliverables could be drawings, specs, elements of data, work packages, etc. And we'll talk more about that in the weeks to come for sure. So remember this course, project definition and deliverables. So if you imagine that as deliverable production, opens the whole to a whole host of other things as well. And that's where you get involved with your BIM coordinator, BIM lead, etc. PAS 1192, that's now ISO 19650. UK have defined this long time ago, back when I was working on the Olympics, which now scaringly is 15 or 14 years ago, the London Olympics, when we started. 2012 Olympics started in 2005, so long time ago. They had these roles. The names are semantic. I don't care about names. The point is that they had roles of governance, information management, coordination management, okay? Interface, information. You can see their names. It's all good. The point is they had people governing the relationship of information between entities. And that's whether it's during design and construction, or design, construction, and operations. Information moves. If I remember, okay. I say it's all semantics. About 8 of these names are roles that I've had at the project level. So when you're looking for a job, and that's a fun thing. I've heard somebody say, oh, I've graduated this BIM course. I don't see a BIM posting, but I see a VDC posting, virtual design construction. I don't even have that on this list right here. That's funny. That's another one, a VC coordinator for construction. London Olympics, I was the digital design coordinator. I said, that's a fancy name. Sounds good, right? In IBI group, we have design technology lead, BIM specialists. We have a whole host of things. If you ask me, Brent, what's the difference between a BIM coordinator, BIM modeler, a BIM coordinator and a BIM manager? Well, if you go back to this chart, they don't even distinguish between them, because coordinator, manager, leader, all fancy terms. In IBI group, they said, oh, Brent, you can't call it a manager. And I said, oh, I don't want to, but dare I ask why it can't be called a manager? Well, in IBI, manager implies they're managing people. Okay. How about specialist? Yeah, you could do that. Okay. So we use specialist internally. But when I post it to the outside world, I'll say BIM coordinator, BIM manager, BIM specialist, BIM lead. I don't care. Here's my job description. Come on in. All of you that are in courses like this, graduate, come, apply. Let's find the right people. So that was the point here, is that it could be anything. The BIM lead role, this person, this entity, this individual is your point of accountability for technology at the project level. One of the myths is that, well, it's BIM, so it's this uber BIM thing. No, BIM is part of a project. And on my greatest of projects, I've had a positive relationship with all of these roles. And I got to remember, I'm pointing at my screen and you guys can't see what I'm pointing to. So I'll stop doing that. There should be a pointer here in Zoom another time. But project manager is the person. So the way I always describe it is, if all of these roles, named roles, did not exist, the project manager does everything. Done. You need one person to do the entire project. Is that feasible? Absolutely not. So the project manager says, okay, what do I need? And they'll sit there and say, well, I need an architect. I'll need a bunch of engineers. So there, your tree starts. They'll need a bunch of designers and coordinators and all their good stuff. Spec writers, whatever they need to design. And then they'll come in, and a lot of these will say, you know, I might need someone to manage design. I'm the project manager. I'm going to manage the relationship with the client, the sponsors, plan all those meetings, make sure we're getting paid, etc. Design manager, you go and make sure the design teams are talking. If that BIM guy says there's a clash, I don't know, make sure they figure it out. That's a project manager. Make sure you orchestrate that. A document controls manager, that's transmittals, submittals, etc. Very important when you talk about automation and things that run us down. I've got this model, all the stuff is in Revit. Great. Now what do? I don't know. What do you do? Right? You have all these sheets that you need to deliver. You might have 100 sheets, 1,000 sheets in Revit. 20 of them are for my submittal today. 40 of them are for the submittal tomorrow. Well, I got to submit them. I've got to track that I've submitted them. That's a transmittal. And the submittal is what I've submitted. The client might review and have review cycles over and over. All of those comments have to come back into my model, tracked who did them and why. If there's a clash, I want to submit that there's a clash, and I want to understand that it's been reviewed, it's been approved and fixed, etc. All of that is document control. And there's a relationship. That's why when we talk about collaboration tools, or if you guys have been playing with BIM 360, great, you put your central model in there. Now they're making all these other modules. BIM 360 design is pulled in what was document manager, what was planner, what was teams, and a couple others. Also, you can have all of this associated information around the other actual stuff we're developing. Bring in BIM 360 construction, BIM 360 ops, and it just continues that continuum. Project-wise, we'll talk about that next week as well. I think it's next week or the week after. Very similar. It's a hosting environment for my work in progress stuff, but then all of these associated things coming so we can control and pass things through. Enter project controls, scheduling, costing, tax breakdown, critical path. When you say I want to do a schedule simulation and you need a schedule, well, if you have project controls, that's a very easy thing. Guys, where's your schedule? Link to my Navisworks, link to my Navigator, done. Link to my Solibri, Synchro. It's there. And then your job is, as the schedule manipulates, you update the relationship between tasks and components. There's always a project accountant, plain and simple. Quality manager, that's something where not all firms will have that. I'm lucky enough that everywhere I've worked has had a quality manager and good quality culture. The gist of that, as an architect, I say I'm designing a building, I need 2 stairwells. Great. I think it meets code, etc. I'm going to go to my quality reviewer. Can you have a look at my solution? Don't tell me if you like my architecture. Tell me if there's a break. Tell me if I've missed something. Ensure the quality of life safety is there. BIM lead. I see these client requirements. I've done the capability assessment. I think we should use this software, this collaboration system. Oh, I don't think there's any deliverables, blah, blah, blah. Brent, can you validate that that's fact? And we'll look. So that's what quality is. And these all work together. BIM does not work in isolation. The BIM lead is not this uber godlike creature that hovers over the project and directs. They're integrated and connected. And when all the parts are working together, it's actually a real happy situation. So all projects have some form of accountability. So this is a slide I made for IBI to delineate between what I call simple BIM and complex BIM. If you remember, I had my wheel of BIM. No matter what, you have a model, you're going to design, author, review, and do some sort of visualization, period. You're going to do that. So who's accountable to make sure that stuff is happening? If I'm modeling my doors, who's going to be looking in on me saying, oh my goodness, Brent, why are you modeling hinges and screws and door handles and bolts? Like, what are you doing, Brent? Model the door, drop the family in, label it door, give it a number, and move on with life. That's all you need. So making sure we're ground truthing my approach. Because I could spend weeks modeling a door, and it could be so beautiful and such a waste of time, right? And that's where you hear, oh, BIM is so expensive. Yeah, because people do that. People look at the chair you're sitting on. It's a rectangle, a couple of rectangles, a couple of spokes. You have a chair, call it chair. But no, somebody's going to model the arched fabric back of your chair and all that. Then multiply it 1,000 times in your model, and then Revit crawls, it can't sync, and you scratch your head, what's going on? BIM is broken, can't deliver because somebody made a silly chair and put it all over the model. Complex BIM, great. If we know how to model properly, are we going to do fabrication, procurement, asset management? What are we doing? And if we're doing that, start to ask the questions of how we're doing that. These regions of responsibility, arc, struct, mech, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, civil, more. You can have so many disciplines. As I described, this project manager is going to be orchestrating this whole thing. And there's a lot of people in this team. But this model, this is that fundamental shift that 20 years later, we're good. We still have to remind people that model needs management prescribed by this plan. That's what this is. What are we doing in that realm that benefits everybody around it? And have we documented it? That's what the BIM execution plan does. And you got to understand the project BIM lead. They scope what we're BIMing and why. So scope what we're BIMing, why we're BIMing it. They help to coordinate. They help to champion. They make all of these discipline leads basically relax. You know, it's like the calming effort of the project. They're treated, we're the discipline lead. We are the lead for technology with budget and accountability. We need to train. We need to help bring in projects. And when I say we need to train, that doesn't mean we need to be the trainer. And that's something we've got, I don't know, 20 BIM coordinators in IBI. Oh my God, Brent, I got to train Civil 3D. I don't know Civil 3D. And I look at it, what do you mean? Why do you have to train Civil 3D? You mean you have to coordinate the training for Civil 3D? Oh yeah. So let's call Autodesk. Let's call our reseller. Do we have an expert in the firm? What do we do? I'd be comfortable training on some Revit things, but not a lot. A little bit of MicroStation. You know, I can use things. EcoSim, I can probably train a bit on that, but I'd rather bring in an expert, someone who has written that software inside out to actually train on it. Even the Revit course, your workflow course and your tools course, even that, you know, we're showing from our perspectives. But if you had to do formal training, what I like to do is bring someone in to train, and then I'll come in to show how we use anything specific to our firm or specific to the project. And it works really well. So, with all of that, BIM execution plan, the plan itself, my triangle, it is the most important part of scope, schedule, budget. We have the templates. You guys have seen the templates through the discussion topic. It's interesting when you traverse the globe. UK uses the UK, North America uses North America. Pretty makes sense, right? Then you go to other places in Europe. Some of them will say, oh, we have our own plan, and it's basically the UK plan augmented or the Penn State plan augmented. So they'll brand their own, and oftentimes it's to address nomenclature or some local workflows that had to be adjusted. Did quite a bit of work in the UAE, and some jurisdictions in Dubai and Abu Dhabi would say, yep, here's our template plan. I said, oh, great, you have your own, and I take it. It quite literally is take the Penn State, take the CPICs, fuse it all together, and that's it. Not even remove duplication. And I say, okay, we'll fix that. And then other ones, they'll pick one. So I think Singapore uses mostly the UK one. Australia grabbed North America. Doesn't matter. And that's why I wanted you guys to see them both. The gist of them all, it's a plan. And that second bullet there, it can be a formal or informal plan. So what I've found in IBI group is oftentimes they'll say, you know what, it's a simple project. I don't need to make a plan. Say, whoa, yes, you do. You may not want to fill it out, but we'll have the dialogue. So the plan becomes a meeting. Let's have a BIM meeting. Let's get the discipline leads in. I'll talk through things. And if everybody's agreeing, I could whip together a document anytime after that. The gist is to state the goals and then what uses will be done to achieve those goals. And that's when we do the BIM meeting, it's often, okay, Revit, great, what version? And if it's internal to IBI, I declare it. If there's an external, we want to make sure we agree. And then we say, what are we BIMing? This is the goal. Okay, if we all agree, that's good. Somebody says something like, well, we want existing conditions modeling. Everybody stops. What do you mean by that? Are we all saying the same thing? Are we scanning and we're going to reference? Are we scanning to BIM? And then if we're doing that, who's doing that? Are we going to get an external to do that? When's the deliverable? What's the timing? And a whole host of things, because somebody on a call might say, aren't we going to BIM that existing building? And then that dialogue starts. Scope, schedule, budget, quality, risk. Those are my favorite. Those are the crying words of every project manager. So if there is ever a complaint or a fear, and usually it's fear, oh, this technology stuff seems a little too complex, whatever will follow will be something that relates to those three words, something. So it's like, I'm not familiar with BIM. So, that might prevent me from delivering schedule. Sounds like it might be too expensive with training, cost. I don't know how to use the software. I don't think I'll do good work, quality. Oh, giving that model to a sub, that seems risky, risk. What's my liability? Or I wasn't paid to do this, scope and budget. All these things, but it's got to be a balance, scope, schedule, budget. And that's what the execution plan does. We want the right level of quality, the minimal amount of risk. If I do too much, so if I get in that door and I'm modeling those hinges and I got the best quality door ever, well, it'll make the triangle explode because I've too much quality of detail, too detailed quality, and the triangle explodes. I want the right level. If there's no purpose for doing it, don't. If there's a reason, plan it. Then you're good. EIR. Any prescribed expectations. In the week 7, I think it is, deliverables, we'll see some of the things that we've seen from clients. Is there a data exchange? Or in the UK, they describe it as a data drop. Do they expect that? At various points in the project, does the client expect to receive a digital something? A Revit model, a Civil 3D model, a Bentley I model, an IFC file, an Excel spreadsheet of something. And even that, of what? What would you want? I was asked just this week, can I do ABC? Sure, it's technically possible. Oh, but then what would I do? That's the question. So yes, we can do things. What is the deliverable? And it was interesting. Excel, Revit can't go to Excel. I said, that's rubbish. Of course it can. There's even plugins, Excel to Revit. Excel to Revit. It exists. What does it do? It makes it go back and forth. Oh, okay, great. And I said, why do you ask? Well, the client was asking if we can send stuff to Excel. Great, what stuff? I didn't ask. What do you mean? Ask what would the client want, not can I do it? Okay, no, you can do it, but my goodness, what would we deliver? Right back to the EIR. Sorry, some of these slides are wordy. Once you know the project team, that's these assessment forms. So why these are so important, and I don't care if they're UK based. When we do the BIM execution plan later in the year, last year I always said, don't forget the assessment forms, bridge them together. Some students said, I'll pick North America because they don't have these. No, we have these. The process is client requirements, assess that you could do it, make your plan. Don't discount the importance of understanding how mature your people on the project are from a BIM perspective, whether we have the exchange capabilities, IT maturity, and whether we're actually able to do the project. Yay, we won a $6 billion project, but I have no one to do it. What's the point, right? The BIM execution plan in North America is shepherded by Penn State. Thank you for whomever, I can't remember who found the broken link in the discussion. So what I've done, I've actually put the plans up online for you guys so you can access them. And we're all seeing the same thing when we're comparing and doing the projects later on in the year. So it's actually built into the assignment form and everything. Typical section breakdown. Now, what I hate is section B, okay? And partially section C, because oftentimes it's repeat. So this is designed thinking there's no other plans. In a proper project, there's a BIM execution plan coupled with a project execution plan. So I'll tell my BIM coordinators, before you go filling this stuff out, go talk to the project manager, because project name, address, client name, client address, project number, project accountant, all these roles, they all should be already defined. IBI Group, we're actually working on an automated process. So we call it a project setup bot. So it'll be a chatbot interface where you are connected and asked questions, and it'll ask you what's your project name, etc. And when you fill these things out in the chat environment, it'll go and actually pre-populate this information in a BIM execution plan template and a project execution plan, all done at one time. So you as a BIM coordinator aren't wasting your time. And then really what you want to do is get to the good stuff. Section D. So section A, B, C, good, do it, have it done, awesome. In the assignments later, do it, want to fill it out. This is it right here. What are your goals? What are your uses? What are you doing? Why are you BIMing? Are we turning over any information? Do we understand the process? We'll go through the process maps, but BIM process design. If you said you're gonna, existing conditions modeling, we're gonna have some asset management, we're gonna do BIM to fabrication, we're gonna cost estimate, and we're gonna design review. That sounds wonderful. How are you gonna do it? I don't know. You fail. If the answer is, I don't know, scratch all those BIM goals. Don't do it. To figure out how, that's where these process maps come into play. And they're really good maps, a little complex at times. UK has the pre and post. The idea there is to lay a framework, to get an understanding, to sign in the contract so you're not signing anything that you don't want. My only comment is she's got the deliverables, the milestones, goals for collaboration. I would also like to include the collaboration strategy just a little bit, but regardless, that's the concept. Lay the foundation, sign in, gets scoped, scheduled, and budgeted correctly, then delve into the details in the post contract. And you'll see the differences. Like there's obviously more in the post contract, but similar things, they get into some heavy detail of the model structure, whereas Penn State gets into heavy detail of the process. So what's my advice to all of you? What did IBI do? Well, we grabbed the model structure and we put it into our template. We said, how can you not talk about that? So we'll talk about that. We grabbed process maps and we jammed them into the UK. Said, if you don't know how the things are moving, you guys fail. And we tried to bridge the best of both of these together. This comes straight from the Penn State plan called the uses of BIM. And I kind of like it. You know, there's different types of uses: gathering, generating, analyzing, communicating, and realizing. Different places that they'll influence, different levels of development as it relates to those potential uses, and then different purposes. So if I'm gathering information, it's to ensure quality, better monitoring of conditions, do quantity assessments, and capture existing. So that's kind of what this map shows. And then in the BIM execution plan, it then elaborates on one of the appendices to show, well, these are the types of things that we would do when we're capturing, quantifying, etc. So you'll look as it just goes into more and more detail. And then why I like how it shows the synonyms, because people get lost and say, well, I'm not coordinating, I'm detecting, I'm avoiding, no, it's all the same thing. So don't get lost in semantics and nomenclature and focus on what we're doing. Before I get to my friend LOD, let me go to, I got a bunch of things open here. This is the guide to the Penn State plan. So what I wanted to show here are, was I on the page? Definition of the BIM uses. Let me just find, I was clearly just hopping through this earlier. All right. So what the guide is a good read, okay? It's a lot to it, but it actually tells you how to fill out the BIM execution plan, how to design the process. So notice how it says designing the BIM execution process. So it gives you template examples that we'll look at the end here, but it actually tells you what to go through, how to fill things out, etc. Who should do it. So a lot of good information. I think I showed this in the first week, where BIM uses fit throughout the life cycle of projects. And then it talks about BIM uses themselves. So cost estimation, what's the value, etc. Oh, there it is, Appendix B for full description. So that's what I wanted to go to. So let me go down to Appendix B. If you just bear with me a second here. But a lot of stuff, so there we go, Appendix B. So I was exactly where I wanted to be. That's funny. Long day. So BIM uses. These are the defined BIM uses in the BIM execution plan template. It doesn't mean it's exhaustive, but it's a great start. So I'll use this often when people will say, well, why would I want to do this? Well, here's the potential value. This is the why. This is the business reason of why we would do certain things. And it goes through every single one of them. IBI does a lot of work in asset management and trying to bring that to realization. But I'll go, like record modeling is there, fabrication, why would I coordinate? My goodness. If you even have to ask that, if you're forced to answer that question, it's unfortunate, but sometimes you do. Design authorship, the most common thing. Analysis, so they're all here. Design review, the other most common. The cost of not knowing what you're doing, very important. Existing conditions modeling. Why would I go and make a digital twin of the existing urban fabric or rural fabric? What's the benefit? There's the benefit. There are the ways to do it. Then it's, do I want to do it? That's a whole nother question. Does it fit into your project? That's when we get to this analysis worksheet. Is there a purpose? Give a priority. This is one of the appendices to the BIM execution plan. You have all of these uses. Maybe you do it, maybe you don't. Value to the project. High, medium, low, not at all, right? Not all of these will apply. Just because you have a BIM use, that doesn't mean you have to use it. That's one of the BIM myths, right? Then there's level of development. Based on what you're BIMing and why you're BIMing it, now we step into the world of the model and we say, great, what am I going to do? So drawings and schedules, awesome. Simple use. I'm going to make my drawing. I'm going to keep picking on my door. I'm going to cut my door. I'm going to see it in plan. I'm going to see it in elevation. It'll have a unique identifier. It will appear on my schedule. Do I need hinges? Do I need doorknobs? No. We're talking LOD 300. This level of development for the door may be a little higher at 350 with my hardware schedule. That's what I need as an architect. What about conduit? What about field routed conduit? Do I need that? Do I need to model it? The point is that the specification says it is field routed. I've got to go, I have a switch and I have a light. And it's going to have a conduit that goes from switch to light. So what's critical? Switch light. The contractor is free to put the conduit wherever they want. So do I model the conduit? Most likely no. But if I have a BIM use for electrical analysis, and I want to know what wiring is going through the conduits, how much voltage and amperage connected to an electrical distribution system, maybe I do. Ask the question. This is a BIM, an LOD matrix. And I will, for fun, because LOD matrices are so fun, I will open up ours again. I can't remember if I did this in one of our previous calls, but it's important. So while it's opening, so what the LOD matrix shows, the components, describing what the component is, who models it. Now notice here, some of these say architecture structure, architecture mechanical, or sometimes just architecture. There are components, and in my experience, concrete masonry unit walls, block walls. Usually architecture sometimes structural, depends on who owns the spec, etc. That's the question to be asked. In the UK, they call it a master information delivery plan. Various versions of what you see right here. So in IBI group, we added classification systems so you can see it. You know, we'll talk about that down the road, but these are somewhat important as well, so you know what to attach to a component. But you just go through the component. A basement wall will be modeled by structural, having this level of development in schematic design, this one in design development, so between 30 and 60, this one between 60 and 100. And then as-built, I'll keep stressing again. Notice how the as-built model is not suddenly LOD 500. I'm a designer. The as-built for me will be the door moved 2 feet to the left. I'll move the door. I'm not going to draw all the rebar and all the pore joints of the wall, because at the end of the day, an as-built design model is still an as-built design model. Also notice some things are still down at 100. Not everything has to be modeled at a 300 range. And I'll scroll down. Here's plumbing, mechanical. We've built out this LOD matrix to include all of our disciplines. Electrical, cable trays, duct banks, very important, takes up a lot of space. Some things not so important. Commercial equipment. I'm going to put it somewhere. I might want to account for the fact that there might be something, but I'm not designing it. I don't know where it's actually going to go. I just know it's going to draw some energy. It can be 200. It can be anywhere in the design. Some things are even down at 100. So know that that's possible. We also then added civil components as well. Parking lot markings. Could draw it. We're in no control. Once the parking lot is paved, as long as they fit the minimum parkings, I don't care how they lay out the lot. LOD 100. We want to verify that required parking is 100 spaces. You can fit 100. We rock. Done. How you lay them out, you want to do them on the angle. Costco usually has the space between, whatever, as long as it fits. Not our design. So that's the gist of the LOD matrix. And as I described when we were working on the Viva Next project in Vaughan, Civil didn't understand. What do you mean? What do we model? What do we see? And we built this for civil-based components so that they understand. One of the dialogue was the telephone pole. The telephone pole, instead of being a circle placed in an AutoCAD drawing, it's a telephone pole that they replicated and geospatially put properly. Very, quote, simple, very possible. Couple examples here from BIM execution plans that I've been involved with of goals. So as I described, a project goal, uses that'll be harnessed to achieve the goal. Creation of visualization for the design engineering joint ventured required deliverables, visualization. That's the use. Design authoring, 3D coordination, design review to ensure a coordinated model. See similar uses here. Use of the BIM model to advance the automation of cost estimation. Medium priority, very interesting. So there we were heavily focused on the QTO process inside Civil 3D and ensuring that as we were modeling specifically the pipe networks, that there was enough delineation to get proper quantities in support of the estimating. Same here, quickly assess costs associated with design changes, supporting of cost estimation. Information exchange, design, construction, operation. This was a P3 project, and the owner was there saying, if we have your models, can we? And they started asking questions. And in certain things, we said, yes, we can ensure that the output will be complementary for asset management. I think both templates have this BIM use table. We've definitely merged them in. Basically, once you've defined your goals and your uses, this basically is just a quick summary. What are all the uses you've identified as being relevant? And then you'll eventually need a process map for each of them. So if you say design review, how? Do we understand how we're going to do design review? This here, I say respect the phases. So the reason planning, design, construct, operate, okay? Planning, design, construct, operate. I don't care where you work in the globe, it still applies. And why I show this is because, you know, when we talk about BIM uses, plan, design, construct, operate, when we're using what? Oh, we're not doing that. We're using percentages. We're using schematic design, design development, like, whatever. It just doesn't matter. I was put on projects right here, oil and gas. We're working on feed. Once I discovered what feed was, I was like, oh, so it's planning and up to 30% design. Gotcha. Simple. Okay. In the UK, they have REBA phases, 1 to 7. Used to be A to L. Same thing, but all maps, planning, design, construct, operate. That's just the phases of the work, and away we go. These are the two that IBI mostly are involved in. So usually percent complete, usually the AIA or REBA. And when we go globally, these are the most common as well. So some of these are like the oil and gas one, the Army ones, they are what they are. But mostly somebody says, we'll talk REBA phases or we'll talk AIA, American Institute of Architects phases. And it's a common language. Worst case, hey, 0% to 100%. Everybody knows that. And then you construct and operate. Consider data turnover requirements. What has to be turned over and when? Simple versus complex. Okay. You know, PDF, CAD, and raw BIM models, review models, data. You know, there's increased complexity as you go through those 4. PDFs are still the simplest and the most common, but more and more you'll find that people want more than just PDFs, period. The COBie data drafts, so COBie stands for Construction Operations Building Information Exchange, heavily used in the UK, and they define data drops through 5 phases, and you can see it's like requirements and constraints, your outline solutions, so it's probably 60% design, construction info, so you've tendered and you're starting construction, and then upon completion of construction, and then post-occupancy, validating ongoing O&M. Design, construct, plan, design, construct, operate. Same thing, data drop means data turnover. Let me get into the process maps. Now the process maps basically say, great, you have defined what we're gonna do. We know who you are, you're the person accountable for it. You know there's this team, there's all these people, there's the project manager, there's gonna be the contractor, you're gonna be getting data, creating content, creating data, and outputting. You're gonna get, create, deliver, okay? Do that at various phases, repetitive cycles, and you're gonna be trying to apply these BIM uses throughout the course of your project. So what does that mean? This here, so I'll go back. Level 1 process map looks at the overall process, and then there's 16 level 2 process maps focusing on specific BIM uses. Now, what I uploaded for you all, go to the template North America. I did upload all this. So the guide that I had opened is this guy right here. All of these other items, there's the template plan itself. Then you've got all these workflows we're about to look at, both in PowerPoint format, Visio format, Word format, apparently. That's yuck. That's all right. And they're all here. So this all makes up your BIM execution plan. And that's why when I look at it, well, I'll go back to my IBI world here. We look at it as the plan itself plus an associate collection of appendices. The EIR, the assessment forms, the analysis sheet, my LOD matrix, and then anything else that we've written. All of these form part of your plan. And I'll just show an IBI in UK, same thing. We've got the appendices, the forms, etc. Specific numbering matrix, and the process maps are there. So what does the process look like? It identifies usually at the top, what are my uses? And at the bottom, exchanges of information. So I'll just quickly walk through it because you look at it and you say, oh my God, I quit. No more BIM, this stuff makes no sense, but it does make sense. It's not bad. So like any process map, there's a start and you plan. Just what's the program? So what's the input? What they call a program model. Somebody's going to define, and that could be, I can't remember if I mentioned code book in previous weeks. It could be a code book room definition. You're working for a hospital. They have a database of all the rooms that are needed and all the stuff that's going to be in the room. Great. What does that look like? There's 3 operating rooms, and they have these things. There's 2 tiny outpatient rooms. They have these 10 things each. There's 100 patient rooms, and they all have these things. Great. Now I have something to design. So let's author a schematic design. This is using the AIA. So up to 30%. What am I going to do? We're going to create some things. I could perform my initial cost estimation, do some coordination, some virtual prototypes. Might make a 4D model, might perform some analysis. I have an output, that's my schematic design. And out of all of this, I have an output that are each of these items. Now, remember what BIM, you scope it. So if I'm not doing cost estimation, scratch that box, scratch that output. If I am doing cost estimation, well, there better be a purpose. There has to be an output. Do design development, another output. Same uses, same output. Contract documents, same thing. Once I'm done contract documents, again, here's all of these, quote, final outputs of all of the uses that I had. If you follow this one, my construction documents and a coordinated model. And then once the project is done, a record model. That's the overall process. Then, so let's just go back to that. That's the design process in a nutshell, supported by BIM. Then as I said, you might do these 5 things. You might do any one of the 16 BIM uses. So what Penn State says is let's develop these level 2 plans. This one here is looking at design authoring. So simple, process starts. What do I need? I need a design model. Okay, that came from the first map. You made a model, schematic design. What am I going to do? Do a review, compile everything for review. So bring in all those schematic models, arc, struct, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, piping, et cetera, bring it together. We have a review model. We might have O&M content, operation and maintenance. We might have a virtual mock-up, give it to the Viz team, they bring it into Max, they bring it into Unreal or Unity, make a VR, make an animation, whatever. And then you produce an output. Come to the right here. There's a decision. Is the design acceptable? Yes, rock on, next phase. No, return it back with the comments. Clashes. Very, very common BIM use. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can get the gist of all of these. Looking at the clashes, whenever the process starts, something has to come in. So here it's going to be requirements of the client, the company, etc. We're going to create the areas of coordination, enter in whatever protocols we need, schedule coordination, define the information from the models, run the clash, bring in the models, run the clash, then you analyze. You've got the clashes, compile it, perform the collision, analyze it, review it over and over and over again. And notice at the bottom half of the box, the person who's doing it. Discipline models. Somebody's going to model. We're going to compile the composite. We're going to run the clash. Somebody's going to get the collisions, not us. I always say the beam is hitting the duct. Great. I'm not going to fix that. What am I going to say? Cut the beam, cut the duct, lift the building? I don't know what you want. Sure, you don't want any of those. Somebody has to resolve it. It might involve a redesign of the duct, a redesign of the beam. I don't know. 4D schedule simulation. Again, same concept. You got to set your sequence and flow. And that could be a challenge in itself. So whenever I get asked, hey, can we do 4D? Yeah. What do you want to do? Bottom up, right? You're going to build the bottom first and things will grow. Well, no, we've got a specific, all right, once that happens, a specific schedule, how things are going to grow and why and what comes first, site logistics, etc. I need a scheduler. I need someone to give me the information. And it might be based on productivity or lead times, right? How long does it take to get steel to site, to fabricate it, etc. In the same breath, we want to establish the exchange requirements, bring in the model. So that means this first step is, in order to do a 4D schedule simulation, you guys all need your Revit model to be ready by this date, etc. Your Bentley model to be exported to an iModel by this date, whatever it is. We make the scheduling model, so it's container, linking in all the live models, and we start. Bring in the data, get a draft, link the elements to their tasks, validate it, run it, review it. Is it good? Yes, great, we have an output. If it's not, right back to the beginning, do it over and over and over till it's right. And when people see this, they can say, oh, okay, who's the 4D modeler? Well, isn't that a wonderful question? Is it you, the BIM coordinator? I don't know. I don't know. Is it me? It could be any one of us, I guess, but who is it? And if people don't have that answer, is it the architectural modeler? Is it the contractor's modeler, which is where I prefer to be? Cost estimation. You can see these are getting kind of repetitive, I hope. You get a cost report, a cost analysis model. Are there regional specifics, etc.? You have a 3D model. You do some whatever adjustments you need to get a proper takeoff. Once your model is ready, analyze it, develop your quantities, review your output. Is it good? Yay, whatever. Analyze the output, analyze the data, feed it in. You end up with an estimate. And notice here, contractor, 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 contractor. Right along the board, okay? But oftentimes it's, hey, architect, where's my cost estimate? And I don't like that, but we make do. Oftentimes you have to do an estimate during design, but when we're in design build projects, it's always the contractor. P3, here's our model, the contractor, because they're going to be costing it from the very start, from the first component that goes in the model, straight through to the end of the project. Record modeling. Get all the information, equipment info, product info, any COBie requirements. Bring in your design model, coordination model, 4D model. Now keep in one time somebody asked me, why are there so many models? It's all information. Doesn't matter how many files. It's not one big bucket of here's my Uber, Revit, everything, here you go. No, I'm gonna have what I like to call empty containers. I'm gonna have a container, my coordination model, that references in everything. So you guys can still work on your live design models, and I'll be coordinating it and seeing it in Navisworks, in Navigator, wherever. I'm gonna have Synchro bring in all of my design models and then simulate it, schedule it. Compile all the information, generate anything additional that's required, see what's missing. I have my record model. Same with operations, same concept. I'm not going to dwell on these all. Info comes in, record model comes in. I integrate it and interpret the information for maintenance needs, connect it to my maintenance schedule, perform the maintenance and continually upgrade. The model is now part of my interface to maintenance. And I'll show you that in a subsequent class when we talk about IBI's asset management system. So one time I was asked, or I was told, Brent, I hate these. I said, okay, whatever. And then I was told, can you do something better? So I said, okay, let me try this. So this was made for a project, and I think it was about 2009, I think. And I said, let me try to make one map with everything. And they said, oh yeah, one map's better than 10. I said, yeah, okay, whatever, we'll do one. So the idea here was similar concept. We've got things we have to share, deliverables. We have external entities that are going to give us any owner's data requirements and templates. So here's your EIR information. We're going to have content coming in from CAD, old CAD, whatever, etc. We're going to have external reference content. And then we're going to have a host of information. Sorry, I'm not following my own process. Sorry. Up here, we're going to make my model. So these container models, we're going to have discipline models all brought together. Structural, architectural, process, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, civil, P&IDs, so schematics, intelligent schematics, all brought together. And when this stuff all comes together in one spot or many spots, all of these linkages of live living data, I'll then generate, where needed, quantities, visualization, information exports. Here we use Navigator. So these were the four main outputs from the collection of models. And then it continues, just reviews over and over and over, or goes towards BIM clash review. So we would generate the clashes, review the content, or towards a deliverable. Let me see, there's something in the chat. Yeah, so the term, when we use the term container model, and container is not very common. It's not specific. The question is container model for review only. The term container is basically an empty shell that's used to house other information. So when I use the term a container model, I'll use that to represent, imagine just that you have an empty RVT file, an empty Revit model, and I link in 10 other models, right? I have an empty container. In the world of Revit, it doesn't really make sense because you have central models, but in the world of Bentley, the concept of the container is I'll have an empty DGN, live reference a host of files, and the data comes with it. Navisworks, the NWD file could be thought of as an empty container. We append in all of our Revit models generating, or append in generated NWCs. Either way, you get your NWC representing the Revit, representing the design from wherever, and then the NWD is your quote container. And then in that container, we can turn on the timeliner, the clashes, etc., and do things to the data that have come from the other sources. Okay, next. Here's another one. Somebody said, yeah, I don't like this one either. I said, well, great. Well, here's another one. Let's try. So here, and I got to move these cameras out of the way. That's okay. So bunch of inputs, standards, project plans, teams, checklists, etc. Kickoff meeting, set up our collaboration environment, project kickoff, BIM kickoff. And we stress that. So I like to have the BIM lead over here to help to talk about the premise of BIM with the design team. And then let's get all the BIMing people, the people that'll make the technological difference together in one meeting. Oops, sorry, I'm trying to move the cameras, then I'm blocking half of my screen. There we go. All right. Then if you follow this process here, we will, from the BIM kickoff, we will get to the modeling. So we have a host of BIM models, ArcStruct, Mechanolect, etc. External entities potentially. And that will feed to on-the-spot coordination and go through a little mini review cycle. I hope you can see my mouse move here. Little mini review cycle. It'll also feed through, in this project, we use the Navisworks model, but this will be your design review model. And then from there, we said, let's go around and do our clash reports. Design issues would go straight to a review session. Clash reports, they could be minor, come to a review meeting. And if they're minor enough, they go to a weekly CAD BIM call. We get the modelers in there and we say, guys, you know what? We're trying to do these things. Clean up your model. You know, your columns, instead of sitting on the floor, they're actually going through the floor. Makes no sense. Can you just fix those columns? You know, things like that. Or it's, wow, we got beams going through ducts. Let's get this down. These are design issues. Get it to the project team. The designers will solve, and it'll come back in the cycle. And then from this Navisworks model, we have Navisworks plus the live models generating our outputs, 4D, quantity, asset management, et cetera, et cetera. So this kind of is a mix mash of everything. I look at this and I say, you know what? The more and more I try to put everything into one map, the more I say Penn State kind of has it right. Focus on the use and who's there. Because what this isn't saying is, great, you list all this stuff. This implies it's all being done by the design team. Where's the contractor? Where's the cost estimator? Where's the owner? Where are all of the pertinent people that are supposed to properly influence these outputs? It's not me, the architect. It can't be just me, the architect. So all of that, a lot of stuff, right back to this. Requirements, assessment, make the plan. Turn order from chaos. That's the intent of this. And then lastly, you know, some of this is already implemented. So the criticality of this is this BIM lead role. It's not a new role. I earlier had that slide of all the various names. For the last 3 decades plus, there's been a lead, a technological lead that has been governing the application of technology at the project level. So now we call it a BIM lead, BIM coordinator, BIM manager, BIM specialist. Don't even use the word BIM. So now I'm, you know, when I have people resisting internal to IBI, I'll just say technology lead. In our project setup bot, the question it asks is, are you starting a new project? Yes, you're in the bot. It says, great. You doing any BIM? Yes, awesome. No, are you doing any CAD? No, are you doing technology at all? No, then it's going to fire me a message as director saying, hey, we're just starting a project and we're apparently not doing anything. Why are we doing it? So I'll actually phone that project manager and say, what's the deal? Oh, I just said no because I don't want to deal with it. All right, and that's probably going to be the answer. So it's important to ask those questions. Lead and oversee the application of BIM and CAD, anything technology on the project. And we're using the word technology more and more because we're talking AR, VR, AI, potential connections to 5G, linkages to Internet of Things, smart city platform, full connectivity. And I'll show examples of all of that later on. I think it's in week 9. Want to set our goals so we know what we're doing and why, document them in the plan. Interaction is critical. We're all connected. We're going to lead the team, coordinate. BIM issues, health checking the models, coordinate advanced BIM tasks, making sure what we said we're going to do is actually then being done throughout the course of the project. And definitely heavy at the setup perspective. We want to build the proper foundation for the project so the project starts right. And engage from the very beginning. This here, just a reminder, this is my wheel of BIM. No matter what we're doing, anything in our field, design authoring, design review, visualization, we're going to do that. We will do that. We're always producing something. These other uses, maybe. But that's, you know, we have to combat that myth that we don't do everything because of the word BIM, okay? But when we're planning, when we're doing project definition and deliverables, if I know what to define, if I know what the needs are, and I know the potential impact on the deliverables, then we will be fine. It'll work out. But there's no way we succeed without everything that's put in place. Think about budget, okay? there's a lot of talk, what does the BIM lead cost? And I'll say, well, scrape away a little bit of time from the entire project and do it. Or don't plan it all and let them be subset to the project manager. I don't know. But the point is that these things all happen. And in my history, the dialogue of, oh, Brent, you've introduced a new person to my project. I'll say, great, we won't put the person on the project. You still have to do all this stuff. What did you do? And you get a blank look. It's like, okay, so you don't want to deliver drawings? You do. What does your client want? Oh, your client wants all this stuff. Did you look at your client requirements? And then what? So that's the whole point. And that's it. I ended with a very wordy slide. Let's just end with that image, because that, for me, this image says it all for me. That's the purpose of this week's lecture. Okay. Questions, comments, thoughts? Anything? This happens every year. It's a very quiet group, and that's okay. I will remind you all that wrong browser. Come this week 14, you're all presenting. It'll be fun. It'll be good. Let me just lay the nugget for that. Okay, in week 14, I am your project manager. I think I said this in week 1. I'm your project manager. You're going to present me a solution. You're going to present it as a team. You're going to be forced to work together. You're going to bring your solutions from the week 5 assignment and the week 7 assignment. Whenever I'll look at that. Bring the 2 assignments together, take whatever comments I gave, agree on a solution, and actually present it. I'm your PM. You want to present it to me. Coming down the pipes here. So next week, we're talking about software. So this should open up, this will open up at 3. So there we go. So I see it. I was going to say, why am I not seeing it? We're going to have a discussion board topic pop open. All the previous topics are going to close Monday. Week 5, we have a quiz assignment that'll pop open, looking at collaboration. It's actually my favorite assignment of the course. So that's coming down the pipes. And a reminder, just to verify for those who came on later. Ooh, I'm going to add a poll. Can I do that? No, okay, that just got overly complex. Never mind. I'll do that for next time. Reminder for everyone, next week's class, I asked if it's okay for me to move it to 11 a.m. So I want it to be unanimous for all of those that came on after the start of the class. We've got 90 people. Any concerns about next week at 11 a.m. Eastern time? Because I'll be in China, that'll be 11 p.m. for me. And if nobody has concerns, what I'll do is I'll just put an announcement reminding everybody. I'll remind everybody many, many times between now and then. I'm asking, and I have a question out to the Zoom people. I do want to adjust. I want to try to change it so it just appears on here. Right now it says 1 p.m. I don't know if I'm able to change one occurrence in the way they have Zoom set up. So if I can, I will change it here. If not, it'll still say 1, but we're moving next Friday to 11 a.m. Okay, so that'll be in the announcements, and I will bombard you all with that. And the only other reminder is the week 2 quiz will also close on Friday. So if you haven't done the quiz, do the quiz. If you have next Friday. If you haven't done the discussion, do the discussion. I'll post an announcement saying, please close all these things, rock on, and don't freak out if you didn't do anything in the discussion and it shows 0 out of 1. It'll be 0 if you didn't do anything in the discussion. Please put something in the discussion. That's it. There are no further comments. All right, I will thank you all You'll make sure it's also announced in the lecture. Okay, excellent. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day and enjoy the rest of your classes and enjoy your weekend. Bye for now.